I stand before you today to share a simple but profound truth. Your life is not governed by chance, by luck, or by external forces. Your life is a direct reflection of your inner assumptions. The reality you experience in the physical world is shaped moment by the beliefs and feelings you cultivate inside. This is not something to simply think about. This is something to live, to feel, and to apply. For in the world of imagination, everything begins with assumption. I know you may be wondering, how can this be true? How can the unseen, the invisible world of thought, feeling, and assumption have such power over the tangible world we live in? But I assure you, the world around you is nothing more than the outer expression of the inner assumptions you hold. What you assume to be true, deeply and persistently, will manifest in your life, regardless of your current circumstance. Now, imagine for a moment that you want something in your life. Perhaps it's wealth, perhaps it's success, or perhaps it's a specific goal or desire that seems far out of reach. The first step, and the most crucial one, is assume it's already yours. That's right. The key to unlocking this law of creation is not in trying to get something or waiting for it to appear. The key is in accepting it as a present reality. Many people spend their lives thinking of their desires as something that will come to them in the future, as if they are forever chasing something just out of reach. But the truth is, the future does not exist. The only moment you have is now. And the moment you make the inner assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, the seed of that reality is planted. When you assume that something is true, whether it's wealth, success, or love, you must feel it as if it is already a fact. It's not enough to simply think, I have it. You must feel the joy, the satisfaction, the gratitude, and the fulfillment of already possessing it. The feelings that accompany your assumptions are the driving force behind their manifestation. The physical world does not act in isolation. It responds to the inner world, and the more deeply you feel that your desire is fulfilled, the more swiftly it will appear in your outer reality. In fact, this process is not unlike planting a seed in the soil. When you plant a seed, you do not question whether it will grow. You do not keep digging it up to see if it's sprouting. You trust that the seed, when properly planted, will grow in its own time. The same is true with your assumptions. When you assume something to be true and feel it deeply, you are planting a seed in your subconscious mind. You may not see immediate evidence, but just as the seed slowly grows beneath the surface of the earth, so too will your assumptions slowly manifest in your outer world. Your job is not to question the process, but to trust it. At times, people get caught up in the physical evidence around them. They say, but nothing has changed. How can I believe something that I don't yet see? It is important to understand that the physical world is a reflection of the assumptions you hold within. It may take some time for what you've assumed to show up. But if you persist in the assumption of your desire as true, the outer world must reflect that assumption. Take a moment to think about what you would feel like if your desire was already fulfilled. What would it feel like to have won that lottery, to have that dream job, or to be living in the house of your dreams? It's not enough to simply think about it. You must allow yourself to deeply feel those emotions now. Feel the excitement, the relief, the joy of already being in possession of what you want. This is the key. To bring the feeling of the end result into the present moment, to live as though you have already achieved your desire. The process is simpler than many believe. It is not about complex rituals. It is about assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and living in that feeling. Once you do this, you begin to align yourself with that reality, and the universe begins to shape itself around you to make it real. What most people fail to understand is that the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and an actual experience. When you vividly imagine and feel the experience of having already achieved your desire, your subconscious mind accepts it as fact and begins to work behind the scenes to bring it into your physical reality. This is why the assumption of the wish fulfilled is so important. It's not just about hoping, wishing, or desiring. It is about assuming confidently and persistently that your desire is already a fact. And as you continue to persist in this assumption, your life begins to take on a new shape. What once seemed impossible or out of reach becomes increasingly possible because you are no longer waiting for the world to tell you it's possible. You've already assumed that it is. And here's the most important part: you must remain consistent in your assumption. Persistence is the key. The world is constantly changing, and it may seem like there's no immediate evidence of your desires coming to fruition. But I assure you, if you remain firm in your assumption, no matter what your external circumstances tell you, your world will change to reflect your new reality. Your desire must manifest, because it is no longer a hope or a dream. It is now a certainty in your mind, and the world must mirror it. Remember, your thoughts, your feelings, and your assumptions create your world. The outer world is nothing more than the mirror of your inner state of being. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, live in the end, and watch as your reality transforms before your eyes. The process may seem simple, but its power is immense. When you understand that you are the creator of your reality and that your assumptions are the building blocks of the life you desire, there is nothing you cannot achieve. This is not about waiting for the right time or the right circumstances. The time is now. The moment you choose to believe and feel your desire as already fulfilled, you begin to open the door to a world of infinite possibilities. Trust in the process. Live in the assumption, and allow your world to reflect back to you the reality you've already created within. I have seen many people struggle with the idea of manifestation, especially when it comes to something as tangible and immediate as wealth. They wonder how it is possible to go from a state of lack to a state of abundance. How can someone go from not having enough to suddenly finding themselves with more than enough? In this world, the answer lies not in the effort to acquire, but in the assumption of wealth itself, long before it is physically apparent. I am telling you this not as a theory, but as a truth that is grounded in the very fabric of reality. It all begins with the assumption that you are already wealthy. You do not wait for wealth to come to you. You assume the state of being wealthy in your mind, in your feelings, and in your thoughts. To understand this principle, you must first recognize that your thoughts create your reality. The external world is not separate from your internal world. It reflects it. This is why the assumption of wealth, the feeling of wealth, is so incredibly important. You cannot create wealth by focusing on what you lack or by waiting for some magical event to change your life. You create wealth by assuming that you are already abundant. I know this might sound difficult at first. Many people's first reaction is to point to their empty bank account, their debts, or their financial struggles. They look at the present moment and say, but how can I assume that I am wealthy when everything around me says the opposite? Here's where the principle of assumption comes into play. It doesn't matter what your current circumstances are. What matters is the state of being that you assume. Imagine for a moment that you are wealthy, that you have everything you need and more. Feel it in your body. Feel the relief, the joy, the peace that comes with having more than enough. Let that feeling consume you. Let it take over your thoughts and your actions. This is not about lying to yourself. This is about aligning your mind with the truth of what you are assuming. The feeling of already having is the creative power that will shift your reality. Think about it this way. When you assume the feeling of wealth, you align yourself with the energy of abundance. This energy does not discriminate. It is the same energy that governs everything in the universe. Whether you are consciously aware of it or not, your assumptions and beliefs are constantly shaping your reality. So when you assume the feeling of wealth, you align your inner state with the outer reality you want to create. The process is simple. You must consistently assume the feeling of already having. It's not enough to think, I want money, or I wish I could afford this or that. Those are thoughts rooted in lack. Instead, you must say to yourself, I have it. I am wealthy, I am abundant. Then feel that sense of abundance. Feel the power of already having what you desire. This is the key. There will be moments when your mind wants to doubt this process. You may look at your bank account or your current job and feel as though nothing has changed. But I assure you, everything begins with the mind. The external world is a reflection of your inner state of being. If you persist in the assumption of wealth, in the feeling of already having, you will begin to see signs of change. It might not happen overnight, but just as a seed takes time to grow, so too will the manifestation of your wealth. The most important thing is to remain consistent in your assumption. You cannot waver, you cannot flip-flop between thinking you are wealthy and thinking you are poor. You must live in the assumption of wealth, regardless of what is happening around you. This is where the power lies. The world around you is constantly shifting to match your inner assumptions. If you persist in assuming you are wealthy, you will see that reality begin to unfold. But here's the challenge that most people face. They don't believe in the power of their assumptions. They see their current circumstances as evidence that their desires cannot come true. The truth is, the outer world is not the cause of your circumstances. It is the effect of your inner assumptions. Your world is a mirror of your inner beliefs. If you believe you are rich, then your world must reflect that belief. So I ask you now, what would it feel like to be truly wealthy? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself in a state of abundance. Picture yourself with all the money you desire. Feel the joy, the freedom, the power that comes with having wealth. The more you can feel the emotions of already having, the more quickly it will manifest in your reality. You must live in that feeling. Make it real in your mind. When you wake up in the morning, assume that you are wealthy. As you go through your day, carry the feeling of wealth with you. Let it fill you. The more you live in the assumption of wealth, the more it will become a part of you, and the more the world around you will start to reflect that assumption. It is important to realize that the feeling of already having is what brings the manifestation into being. The world responds to your inner state. It does not matter how long it takes. The more persistent you are in your assumption, the more certain it is that your outer world will change to reflect the wealth you are assuming. The key is to stay faithful to that assumption and to trust the process. You will find that as you begin to assume the feeling of wealth, your reality will start to shift. Opportunities will appear. People will show up. Money will come in unexpected ways. It is not magic. It is simply the power of assumption at work. The world around you cannot help but conform to your inner beliefs and feelings. So I urge you to start today. Assume the feeling of wealth. Live as though you are already rich. Feel the joy, the peace, the security of having everything you need. Let that assumption guide your every thought, every action, every moment of your life. The more you live in the assumption of wealth, the more you will see your reality shift to match it. Wealth is not something you need to chase. Wealth is something you must assume. When you do, the universe will respond, and your life will unfold in ways you never thought possible. I have heard many people express their frustration when it comes to achieving their dreams. They believe that their desires are too far out of reach, that they are too small, too insignificant, or too incapable of manifesting their goals. The truth, however, is quite the opposite. Your dreams are not beyond your reach. They are simply waiting for you to realize the power that lies within you. The gap between where you are and where you want to be does not lie in your lack of ability, resources, or connections. It lies in your inability to believe that you are already living in the reality where your desires have already come true. You see, the key to manifestation is not in waiting for external circumstances to align with your desires, but in aligning your inner state with the reality you wish to experience. This process starts with the assumption that you are already the person who has what you desire. Whether it's success, a new job, a loving relationship, or even something as grand as achieving a lifelong dream, the first step is to assume the feeling of already having it. You cannot wait for the evidence to show up in your physical world. You must create the evidence in your mind first. It is this inner assumption, rooted in the deep feeling that your dream has already come true, that activates the law of attraction and sets the wheels of manifestation into motion. When you assume that you already have your desire, you create a shift in your consciousness. You stop looking outward for the thing you want. Instead, you begin to embody the state of being that you believe is necessary for your desire to come true. When you make this shift, the external world must follow suit. Your environment, the people around you, and even your own thoughts and behaviors will begin to mirror the assumption you've made. In this way, you start to attract experiences and circumstances that align with the new reality you have created in your mind. But here's the challenge. Many people are attached to the idea of evidence. They want to see something before they believe it. They look at their current reality and question, how can I assume I already have what I want when everything around me tells me I don't? The answer is simple. The world you see around you is not the final authority. It is simply a reflection of the assumptions you have held in the past. What you see now is a result of the thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions you've held up until this point. But those assumptions do not need to be your truth moving forward. It's important to understand that the present moment is always pregnant with possibility. You are not bound by the current reality you perceive. You are only bound by the assumptions you hold in your mind. When you start to assume a different reality, your world will begin to shift to meet that assumption. This process may take time, but it will unfold if you remain faithful to the assumption that you already have what you desire. The key to unlocking this power lies in living in the end. This means you must stop waiting for the future to bring you what you want. Instead, you must begin to live as though it has already been given to you. Act as if the dream has already been fulfilled. Imagine how you would feel, how you would think, and how you would behave if the thing you wanted was already in your possession. Then, embody that feeling fully. Live in that emotional state every day. By doing so, you are changing your vibration. Your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors all send signals into the universe that align with the reality you are creating. When you live in the end, when you live as though your desire is already a fact, you change your frequency. This shift in frequency is what attracts the circumstances and opportunities necessary for your desires to manifest. Many people struggle with this idea because they are so attached to the physical evidence. They wait for things to show up in their lives before they allow themselves to feel the emotions of success, abundance, or love. But the truth is, that feeling is the secret. It is the feeling of already having your desire that actually creates the reality you are seeking. You must feel the joy, the peace, and the gratitude of already living in your desired reality. If you want to experience more wealth, feel the freedom of already being wealthy. If you want to attract love into your life, feel the warmth and connection of already being loved. If you desire success, feel the accomplishment and satisfaction of already achieving your goals. When you can truly embody the feeling of already having what you want, you send a clear signal to your subconscious mind that this is your new reality. This is why it is so crucial to maintain unwavering faith in your assumption, regardless of what your external world shows you. The current circumstances are just that. Current. They do not define your future unless you allow them to. The moment you begin to shift your assumptions, your outer world begins to reflect that shift. It may take time, but it is inevitable. When you persist in assuming that you already have your desire, the universe will have no choice but to bring it into manifestation. Let me be clear. The assumption of your desire is not about hoping for it, wishing for it, or even praying for it. It is about knowing with absolute certainty that your desire is already yours. The moment you make that assumption, you begin to live in the reality of your desire. You are no longer waiting for it to come. You are already living in it. And because you are living in it, your outer world must conform to your inner state. This is the power of living in the assumption of the end. It is the belief that you have already achieved what you desire and the willingness to act as if it is already a reality. This, my friends, is the secret to manifestation. When you live as though your dream has already been fulfilled, your external world will begin to reflect that belief back to you. You are not waiting for the world to give you what you want. You are aligning yourself with the world that already has it. This process may take practice, but it is the most powerful tool at your disposal. The more you live in the feeling of already having your desire, the faster it will come to you. Keep the assumption alive, feel the emotions of your fulfilled desire, and trust that the world is aligning itself with your inner state. Your reality is waiting to reflect the assumption you've made. It is already done. I have witnessed countless individuals get caught in the struggle of wanting something yet feeling as though it is always just out of their grasp. They try hard, they wish fervently, but somehow they can't seem to bring their desires into their reality. They ask themselves, why is it so hard to get what I want? The truth is, the difficulty doesn't lie in the outside world or in the universe's reluctance to deliver. The difficulty lies in the internal conflict between desire and belief. When you want something, you must first recognize that it is already within your reach, not as a future possibility, but as a present reality. The only reason it seems out of reach is that you are looking at it from a perspective of lack. You are observing what you do not have, and in that observation you are reinforcing the idea that you do not yet possess it. You must understand that what you focus on expands, and when you focus on the absence of something, you are only inviting more of that absence into your life. The first step to shifting your reality is to stop focusing on the lack and begin focusing on the reality of having. The secret is not in hoping or wishing for your desire to show up. The secret is in assuming the feeling of having it already. By living in the assumption that your desire has already been fulfilled, you shift your entire perspective. You no longer see yourself as a person who is waiting for something to happen. You begin to see yourself as someone who has already experienced the fulfillment of their desire. At this point you may be thinking, but how can I feel as if it's already here when everything around me says otherwise? The key lies in the understanding that your outer world is simply a reflection of your inner world. Your reality is a mirror that reflects your inner beliefs, thoughts, and assumptions. If you believe that your desire is already here, the world around you will begin to shift to match that belief. This is where the true power of imagination comes in. Imagination is not just a tool for creative thinking. It is the mechanism through which you create your world. The images you hold in your mind, the feelings you generate, and the beliefs you foster in your imagination are not just fantasies. They are the building blocks of your reality. Everything that has been created in the physical world was once an image in someone's mind. Before it could be seen with the eyes, it was first seen with the imagination. When you begin to imagine yourself living in the reality of your desire, you are not fantasizing. You are not imagining something that is far off in the future. You are imagining a reality that already exists. Your job is not to wait for it to appear. Your job is to imagine it as true and live in the feeling of that truth. When you do this, you align your thoughts, feelings, and actions with the reality you wish to experience. In the beginning, it may seem difficult to fully immerse yourself in the feeling of already having what you want, especially if it seems so far removed from your present circumstances. But the power of this process lies in persistence. The more you live in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, the more natural it will feel to you. The more you practice this mental and emotional shift, the more real your desire will feel. Consider this. When you first learned to ride a bike, it probably felt unnatural. The balance, the movements, and the coordination were all things that took time and practice. But once you had ridden a bike a few times, it became second nature. The same principle applies here. At first, living in the assumption of your fulfilled desire may feel strange. It may feel like you are pretending or deceiving yourself. But this is not pretending. This is a shift in your state of being. Just as riding a bike eventually becomes automatic, so too will the assumption of your desire eventually become natural, and your external reality will shift to match it. As you persist in assuming the fulfillment of your desire, the external world will begin to reflect the changes within you. Opportunities will present themselves. New people will enter your life. You may find that ideas you never considered before will suddenly come to mind. This is the power of living in the assumption of the end result. By assuming that you already have what you want, you begin to open yourself up to the ways in which the world can bring your desire into your experience. But there is a catch. You must remain faithful to the assumption, even when the external world shows no evidence of it. This is where many people falter. They make the assumption, they live in the feeling of their desire fulfilled, but when the world doesn't immediately conform to their expectation, they start doubting the process. The truth is that the world does not immediately reflect your inner assumptions. The external world takes time to catch up with your inner state. But this does not mean that the process is not working. You must understand that time and space are merely constructs that exist in your physical world. In the realm of thought and imagination, there is no time, no distance, no delay. When you assume that your desire is already fulfilled, it is as though it already exists. The process of manifestation simply takes time for the physical world to conform. But as long as you remain faithful to your assumption, it is inevitable that your outer world will align with the inner reality you have created. Many people get discouraged because they don't see immediate results. But the key is in persistence and trust. You must trust that the process is working, even when you cannot see it. The moment you give up on your assumption, the moment you question whether it will happen, you undo the work you have already done. But when you remain persistent, when you continue to live in the assumption of your desire, you are building the foundation for it to appear in your physical world. As you persist in assuming the fulfillment of your desire, you will find that the world begins to rearrange itself to match your internal state. The opportunities, the people, the circumstances will all begin to align in ways you could never have predicted. But this will only happen if you remain faithful to your assumption. Your external world must eventually catch up with the inner world you have created. But it will only do so when you remain unwavering in your belief that it is already done. So, trust the process. Live in the assumption of your desire being fulfilled and know that the world must respond. Your desire is already yours, and the only thing that is needed is for you to stay faithful to the assumption that it has already been given to you. When you do this, you will begin to see the impossible unfold before your eyes. I've often observed how many individuals struggle with the idea of their own power. They look at their lives and think that the circumstances around them define their possibilities. They look at their current situation, their job, their relationships, their finances, and believe that their reality is set in stone, that what is before them is all that they can expect from life. This is the great mistake that so many make. They fail to realize that the external world is not the cause of their circumstances. It is the effect of the assumptions and beliefs they hold deep within their own minds. The truth is, you are not limited by the world around you. You are not a passive observer subject to the whims of fate. You are a creator, and your power lies in your ability to change your inner state. The external world is simply a mirror reflecting back to you the thoughts and beliefs you hold. Therefore, if you wish to change your world, you must first begin by changing the assumptions you hold in your mind. The key to transformation is not in waiting for the world to change first and then believing you can have what you want. It is in changing your inner world, your assumptions, your beliefs, and from there watching the outer world transform to reflect the new assumptions you have chosen. The law of cause and effect is at play here. Your inner state causes your outer reality to shift. If you want to see a different reality, you must first decide what you want to experience and then assume that you already are experiencing it. This is where the most profound shift occurs: assumption. So many people wait for circumstances to give them permission to feel abundant, successful, or loved. They say, when I have more money, then I will feel secure. Or when I find the perfect partner, then I will feel loved. The problem with this is that you are giving your power away. You are allowing the outside world to dictate how you feel and what you believe is possible. But this external validation is not the key to unlocking your desires. The key is to feel it before you see it. You must assume the feeling of already having what you want before the world shows you any evidence that it's coming. When you begin to assume that you already have what you desire, you align yourself with the feeling that will bring it into your experience. The feeling is the secret. It is not enough to think about what you want or even to say that you want it. You must feel the reality of already having it. If you want wealth, imagine yourself living in abundance. Feel the security, the peace, the freedom that comes with having more than enough. If you want a loving relationship, feel the love, the companionship, the warmth of already being in that relationship. You must live in the assumption of already having it. At first, this may seem difficult. You may look around and see a world that appears to be telling you the opposite, that you are lacking, that things aren't going the way you hoped. But I urge you to remember that your outer world is only reflecting your inner assumptions. It is a mere image of what is happening inside your mind. When you shift your internal state, your world must follow suit. One of the most powerful aspects of this process is persistence. It is not enough to assume the feeling of your desire one time and expect it to manifest instantly. Just as you do not plant a seed and expect to see a full-grown tree the next day, you must continue to live in the assumption of your desire being fulfilled even if you don't see immediate results. Persistence in living from the assumption of already having what you want is what brings the change. The more consistently you live in this assumption, the more natural it becomes to feel that you already have what you desire. As you persist, you begin to believe in the truth of your assumption, and this belief is what will create the changes in your life. This process of assumption is not about denying reality, but about realizing that reality is malleable. It is shaped by your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotions. You are not locked into a fixed future. You can change your future by changing the assumptions you hold today. It doesn't matter what your current reality looks like. It doesn't matter what is happening in your external world. What matters is what you assume to be true. Think about it in this way. When you assume something to be true, you stop questioning it. You don't go around asking for proof because you already believe it to be true. If you assumed that you were wealthy, for example, you wouldn't be constantly checking your bank account to see if your wealth had manifested. You would simply live as though it has already come to pass, knowing that the external world will eventually reflect your inner state. This is the true power of assumption. It frees you from the need to search for evidence in the world around you. You stop looking for signs of your desires coming true because you already know that they are. You live in the state of having rather than the state of wanting. The secret is to remain faithful to the assumption of your desire, regardless of what you see with your physical eyes. The world will always reflect back to you what you believe to be true. If you continue to believe that you are abundant, that you are successful, that you are loved, then the world will begin to reflect that back to you. It cannot do anything else. The outer world is the effect of your inner assumptions. I want you to remember this. Your assumptions are your power. They shape your reality. They are the cause of everything you see around you. If you want to see a change in your life, you must change your assumptions. You must assume the feeling of already having what you desire and remain faithful to that assumption, regardless of the current circumstances. The external world may not change overnight, but as you continue to live in the assumption of your desire, you will begin to notice shifts. Opportunities will begin to present themselves. People will show up. Circumstances will align in ways you never imagined. It is not magic, it is simply the law of assumption at work. And as long as you persist in your assumption, the external world must shift to match it. So take your power back. Stop waiting for the world to change. Live in the assumption of already having your desire and watch the world around you conform to that assumption. You are not a passive observer, you are the creator of your reality. Your assumptions are the key to unlocking everything you desire. I have often heard people say, "I've tried everything, but nothing is working. Why am I still stuck in this same situation?" They express frustration as though there is an unseen force working against them, holding them back from achieving their dreams. The truth, however, is far simpler and far more empowering than they realize. The reason they feel stuck is not due to external forces, but rather because they have not yet fully understood the power of their own consciousness. The key to moving forward is not in looking outward or hoping for a change in circumstances, but in realizing that the change must first happen within. We live in a world that is constantly trying to tell us what is possible and what is not. Our upbringing, society, and experiences often convince us that the world works in a certain way based on external conditions, hard work, and effort. But this is a misunderstanding of the true nature of reality. The outer world is a direct reflection of the inner world. And as long as you continue to believe that your current circumstances define your potential, you will remain in the same situation. The first step to changing your life is to understand the immense power of your imagination. Your imagination is not just a tool for daydreaming. It is the very medium through which your reality is created. The images you hold in your mind, the thoughts you entertain, and the feelings you allow yourself to experience are shaping the world you live in. Every thought, every belief, and every assumption you have is sending out a vibration that attracts experiences, people, and circumstances that match that vibration. To truly transform your life, you must understand that your imagination is the creative force. The way to bring about change is not to focus on the external world and what is happening around you, but to shift your inner world. When you change the images and assumptions you hold in your mind, you change your reality. Many people struggle with this concept because they are so focused on the physical world and believe that they must wait for external circumstances to change before they can feel any different. They think that they need more money, a new job, or a better relationship in order to feel fulfilled. But the truth is that feeling is the key. You cannot wait for external circumstances to make you feel fulfilled. You must create the feeling of fulfillment within yourself first. It is vital to understand that you must live in the assumption of already having what you desire. When you imagine yourself as the person who already has what you want, you are sending a powerful signal to the universe that this is your new reality. The more you live in this assumption, the more the universe aligns itself with this new state of being. For instance, if you desire financial abundance, instead of focusing on the lack of money and wishing for things to change, begin by imagining yourself as someone who already has wealth. Feel the comfort and security of having more than enough. Imagine the freedom that comes with being financially independent. As you immerse yourself in this new reality, you begin to shift your vibration, and the outer world must conform to this new frequency. At first, you may find it difficult to believe in your own power, especially if your current circumstances do not reflect the reality you are trying to create. However, this is precisely the point where so many people give up. They look at their external world and allow it to convince them that their desires are impossible. But I encourage you to realize that your external world is not the source of your power. It is the reflection of your internal state. Your circumstances are simply showing you the beliefs and assumptions you have held in the past. To change your circumstances, you must first change your assumption. The process of manifestation begins with the decision to live in the assumption of your desired outcome. You must decide right now that your desire is already a reality. You must stop waiting for the outside world to prove it to you and begin living as though it is already done. Feel the emotions of already having what you want, whether it's love, success, health, or wealth. The more you can embody the feeling of already having your desire, the faster it will appear. But here's the challenge. You must remain consistent. It is not enough to assume the feeling of your desire once and expect it to manifest. Persistence is key. The more you stay in the assumption of already having what you desire, the stronger your inner conviction will become. And the stronger your conviction, the more quickly your outer world will shift to match your inner state. You must realize that your outer world is a reflection of your inner state of consciousness. If you continue to focus on the lack of something or the absence of your desire, you are simply reinforcing the reality that you do not have it. This is why it is so important to live in the assumption of already having your desire, regardless of what is happening in your external world. The world is simply reflecting your inner beliefs. So if you want to change your life, you must first change your assumptions. This is not a passive process. It requires active participation in imagining yourself as the person who already has what you want. You must consciously choose to think, feel, and act as if your desire has already been fulfilled. And the more you do this, the more the world around you will begin to align with your inner assumptions. In order to truly see results, you must be willing to give up the old story you've been telling yourself. The story of being stuck, the story of not having enough, the story of struggling. You must rewrite your story and begin telling a new one, a story in which your desires have already been fulfilled. Your imagination is your tool for creating this new story. Use it wisely and begin to see yourself as already living the life you desire. And remember, the outer world must eventually reflect the inner changes you make. You may not see the evidence immediately, but that does not mean the process is not working. In fact, the moment you begin to live in the assumption of your desired outcome, the process is already at work, whether you can see it or not. Trust that the universe is rearranging itself to bring your desires to you. The key to transforming your life is to stop waiting for the world to change and begin changing your inner world first. Your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions create your reality. When you decide to assume the feeling of already having what you want, your outer world must follow suit. The power is in your hands. You are the creator of your reality. The world you see around you is simply a reflection of the images and assumptions you hold in your mind. Change those images, change those assumptions, and watch as your world transforms before your eyes. I have often seen people stumble in their journey toward personal transformation, struggling with the simple yet profound concept of living in the end. They are consumed by the idea that their desires exist somewhere out in the future, that they must wait for the right circumstances or the right timing before they can experience their desires in full. This misconception stems from the misunderstanding of how reality works and how manifestation takes place. The truth is, everything that you wish to experience already exists in a realm that is accessible to you at this very moment. It is not something you need to wait for or chase after. It is something you must align yourself with and claim as already yours. When you begin to think about your desires as something that will eventually manifest, you immediately place yourself in a position of lack. You are saying that what you want is outside of you, that it is not yet part of your reality, and that you must work, wait, and struggle in order to bring it into your life. This is the very attitude that blocks you from experiencing the fullness of your desires. The key to overcoming this is to realize that there is no future or past in the realm of consciousness. There is only the present moment. This moment is where you create your reality, and in this moment you must choose to live in the assumption of your desire already fulfilled. When you live in the assumption of already having what you want, you are no longer striving or reaching for it. Instead, you are embodying the feeling of already possessing it. You are not waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, or the right set of circumstances. You are stepping into the reality that you have already achieved your desire. The feeling of already having is the most powerful state you can inhabit, because it is in that state that you align with the very essence of your desire. If you desire success, do not focus on the lack of it. Do not think about how hard you have to work to achieve it or how far away it seems. Instead, imagine yourself as successful already. Feel the pride, the satisfaction, the ease, and the confidence that comes with being successful. Live in that feeling. Walk, talk, and think as though success is already part of your identity. Your outer circumstances will eventually have no choice but to conform to the assumption you've made. The world around you will shift to reflect the inner belief that success is already yours. Similarly, if you desire a loving relationship, do not spend your time focusing on the absence of love or the fear that it will never come. Instead, assume the feeling of already being loved. Feel the joy of companionship, the warmth of connection, and the comfort of knowing that you are fully loved and appreciated. When you live in this assumption, you are not waiting for love to find you, you are claiming love as an already established part of your life. As you continue to live in the assumption of being loved, the people and circumstances that match this assumption will naturally appear in your experience. The important thing to remember is that you must live in the assumption of your desires' fulfillment with absolute conviction. Doubt is the enemy of manifestation. The moment you doubt whether your desire is truly yours or whether the process is working, you are sending out mixed signals to the universe. You are telling yourself that your desire is something to be attained in the future. And by doing so, you are keeping it in the realm of possibility rather than actuality. The universe responds to the assumption that you hold about yourself and your reality. Therefore, to experience your desires, you must consistently live as though your desire has already been fulfilled, without hesitation or second guessing. Living in the end is not a passive process. It requires you to take full responsibility for your reality and recognize that you are the one who shapes it. Your circumstances, your past experiences, and your external world are not the determining factors of what is possible for you. What determines your reality is the assumptions and beliefs you hold about yourself and your world. When you decide that your desire is already a part of your reality, you stop looking outside of yourself for validation. You stop waiting for external conditions to shift in your favor, and you begin to trust in the inner world that you have created. At this point, you may begin to feel resistance. The mind may argue that this approach is too simple, too easy, or too good to be true. It may remind you of all the things you lack, all the reasons why it's hard to believe that your desires are already yours. But I urge you to push through this resistance. The reason the mind resists is because it has been trained to look at the physical world and think that the physical world is the ultimate reality. But the physical world is only a reflection of your inner state. The more you persist in living in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, the more the outer world must reflect this truth. The journey of living in the end requires faith. Faith in your ability to create your reality through the power of your imagination and belief. This faith is not something that happens overnight. It is something that grows as you persist in your assumption. In the beginning, it may feel strange to believe in a reality that has not yet appeared. But as you continue to live from the assumption that your desire is already yours, the feeling will become more natural. The belief in the fulfillment of your desire will strengthen, and it will no longer feel like a mere possibility, but an inevitable truth. When you consistently live in the assumption of your desire already fulfilled, your external world will begin to conform to this inner belief. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time. People will show up to support you. Opportunities will arise where none existed before. The universe will begin to work in harmony with your inner state, bringing your desires into physical manifestation. The process of living in the end is a powerful tool for manifestation, but it is not one that you can use intermittently or half-heartedly. To live in the end is to live with complete faith in the reality you are creating. It is to embody your desire, to feel it, to act as though it is already true, and to trust that the universe is bringing it into being. It is not a matter of waiting for the right time or the right circumstances. It is about knowing that your desire is already yours and living in the feeling of that fulfillment. In essence, living in the end is the key to manifesting your desires. When you assume that your desires are already fulfilled, you are aligning yourself with the reality you wish to experience. And when you live in that state with conviction, the world around you will inevitably reflect that assumption. The power is within you, and by living in the end, you unlock the potential to transform your reality in ways you never imagined possible. I have often been asked, how can I manifest the life I want when everything around me seems to suggest the opposite? My circumstances don't support the dream I have. How can I overcome this? It is a common question and one that many people wrestle with, often becoming frustrated because the external world does not reflect their desires. They look around and see their current reality, perhaps a reality that feels less than ideal, and they wonder how they can ever hope to change it. But this line of thinking misses the essential truth about how creation works. You see, your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. The circumstances you see today are not set in stone. They are the result of your previous thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions. The key to changing your external reality is to first change your inner assumptions. This may seem counterintuitive at first because society has taught us to look for change outside of ourselves, to work harder, to seek help, to chase opportunities. But the real power lies in realizing that change starts from within. The truth is, the outer world will only shift when you shift your beliefs and assumptions. When you continue to look at your current circumstances and allow them to dictate your sense of possibility, you limit yourself. You place your desires in the future, saying that you will only be successful when certain conditions are met. You place your happiness in the hands of external factors, waiting for something or someone to change before you can feel fulfilled. This is a mistake, for you have been given the ability to create your reality. And the first step is understanding that the power lies within you, not outside of you. When you begin to grasp that your assumptions are creating your reality, you can then begin to consciously choose the assumptions that will bring you closer to your desires. Your assumptions are like a lens through which you see the world. They color everything you perceive and influence your experiences. The assumptions you hold about yourself, your worth, and your place in the world are shaping every aspect of your life. If you assume that you are successful, then success will follow. If you assume that you are loved and worthy of love, then you will experience relationships that reflect that. On the other hand, if you assume that things are difficult, that you are not worthy, or that change is impossible, then that will be your reality. To change your circumstances, you must begin with the assumption that your desired outcome has already been achieved. The assumption is not something you hope for or wish for in the future. It is something you assume in the present moment. The reality you want to experience is already available to you, and it is waiting for you to step into it. The moment you choose to live in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, you align yourself with that reality, and the outer world must adjust to reflect that inner state. Let us take a simple example to illustrate this. If you desire financial abundance, the first step is to stop focusing on the lack of money. The more you focus on the absence of wealth, the more you reinforce the assumption that you are lacking. Instead, you must begin by assuming the feeling of having wealth. Feel the security, the freedom, and the joy of already having more than enough. Imagine what it would feel like to have all your financial needs met, to have the luxury of choice and ease. You must embody the feelings of abundance in the present moment. As you do this, your external reality will begin to shift. Opportunities will arise, and circumstances will change in ways that support your assumption. Similarly, if you desire success in your career, do not focus on the obstacles or the gaps in your current position. Instead, live as though you are already successful. Feel the pride and satisfaction of achieving your goals. Walk and talk as though you are the person you wish to become. The key here is that you must live in the feeling of success before it shows up in your external world. The more you live from this assumption, the more your reality will align with your inner state. Now, I understand that this might sound like a simplistic approach to solving complex problems. It is not uncommon for people to be skeptical, particularly when the outer world does not immediately reflect the inner changes they are making. But here is the secret. The process of manifestation is not about immediate results. It is about consistent, persistent belief in the assumption of your desired outcome. The more you live in the assumption, the more natural it becomes, and eventually the external world must conform to match that inner assumption. Your mind may resist this at first. It will tell you that things are difficult, that it is unrealistic to believe that your desires are already fulfilled. But it is precisely at this point of resistance that the magic begins. The more you persist in living from the assumption that your desires are already fulfilled, the more the world will begin to reflect this inner belief. You are not waiting for the outer world to change first. You are changing your inner world, and the outer world must follow. One of the greatest challenges people face when working with the power of assumption is that they often try to change their circumstances without changing their mindset. They look at their current situation and try to manipulate the physical world to fit their desires, but they fail to realize that the physical world will always reflect their inner assumption. You cannot change the outer world without first changing the inner world. The process begins in your mind and heart. You must assume the feeling of already having what you desire, and the outer world will shift to reflect this new assumption. It is important to understand that the world is not fixed. The universe is not a rigid, unyielding structure that imposes limitations on you. The world is fluid, and it responds to your inner state of being. When you begin to assume the reality of your desires, you are actively changing the world around you. This is the process of creation. You are not simply waiting for life to unfold. You are actively shaping it with the power of your assumptions. As you continue to live in the assumption of your desired reality, it is inevitable that things will begin to shift. People will enter your life who resonate with your new assumption. Opportunities will present themselves, and your circumstances will gradually align with your inner state. This is the law of cause and effect. Your inner world is the cause, and your outer world is the effect. When you change the cause, the effect must change as well. The beauty of this process is that it places the power back in your hands. You are the creator of your reality, and your assumptions are the tools with which you create. You are not a passive observer waiting for circumstances to change. You are an active participant in the unfolding of your life. By choosing to live in the assumption of your desires already fulfilled, you set the stage for your world to shift and your dreams to materialize. To change your reality, begin with your assumptions. Choose to believe that your desires are already yours. Live in that belief and watch as your external world transforms in response. The power is within you, and by aligning your inner state with your desires, you will manifest a reality that reflects the truth of who you are and what you truly want. In conclusion, the key to transforming your life lies not in the external world, but in the power of your inner world. Every experience, every circumstance, every person that enters your life is a reflection of your beliefs, assumptions, and imagination. The universe does not work in the way we've been taught by society. It responds to the state of consciousness you hold. You are the creator of your reality. The circumstances you see today are not permanent, nor are they a fixed reflection of who you are. They are simply the result of the thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions you have held up until now. By understanding and embracing the power of your imagination and the law of assumption, you can begin to reshape your reality. Living in the assumption of your desires already being fulfilled is not just an abstract concept. It is the very tool you can use to align your inner world with your outer desires. It is about embodying the feeling of already having what you want, trusting that the universe will rearrange itself to bring that desire into your life. Remember, your thoughts are powerful, and they are constantly creating your world. Change begins within, and when you shift your inner state, the external world must follow. The process may require patience, persistence, and belief in the unseen, but when you remain true to your assumptions and continue to live from the feeling of already having your desires, you will see your reality transform in ways you never imagined. So live in the end, assume the reality you desire, stay persistent, and trust in the power of your consciousness to create the life you've always dreamed of. The universe is ready to deliver, but you must first align with it. The key to manifesting your desires lies in the present moment, in your ability to assume the feeling of already having what you want. By doing so, you unlock the infinite possibilities that are waiting to unfold before you.